Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Earth Broke Before the Humans Stood, written by Redundantfridge. The universe is cruel and thoughtless. The ones that inhabit an endless void can become no different. The natural order of how the planes of existence deem to form. When a new species is introduced to the galactic community, there is a process to how the typical actions can play out, and it always ends up becoming skewed depending on who finds them first. Enslavement, trading partners, protectors, many of these actions have occurred for fledgling races from senior species. On rare occasions, a new race is able to brute force their way into gazing eyes of the universe and gain either devout admiration or fearful glances. For humanity, a permanent mistake was committed. Due to the actions of a single race, the Dagoonite, who believed themselves to be above the collective and disobeyed the established workings of the galactic community, attacked the humans' mother planet with the sole intent of dominating them. The opposite ended up occurring, and the lesser prepared species won out at a cost. An utter devastation of land and life, the once blue planet. The planet Earth broke before the humans ever did, when even their skies sundered to black space. The lights of their ensuing combat against their adversaries grew stronger, with their population at an all-time low. The remnants of humanity had reverse-engineered and salvaged the payloads of technology left by the ones that attacked them, and committed to going off-world with ire and vengeance. Before the galactic coalition of celestial bodies could offer any sort of input, it turned into an extended battle where whatever remained of humanity were now giving their former aggressors hell on their own world. After feigning ignorance and pleading for the assistance of their allies, more alien species got involved with the conflict in a fit of confusion and blind trust. This action compounded the situation where humanity believed that they were truly alone against the cruel universe. To the aliens assisting the Dagoonite, they lacked enough information to understand anything past the assumption that the humans were the aggressors. Thus, the Dagoonite allies joined the camaraderie in a righteous fury. It helped little in the fact that due to the Dagoonite not adhering to first contact rules, no information in regards to human languages were ever properly translated. At least, none that could be offered at the time by our elements involved with past human interactions. Even if we tried to amend anything, even if we attempted to surrender, it would all be futile, as we would all be put to the blade. Their tactics were modern and methods primitive. No matter what human tribe it was, they did more than just survive in their enemy's backyard. They thrived. Clashing cultures of humanity, divided by language barriers, but united in bitterness and spite. Even though the Dagoonite had done combat with the humans, they never properly informed their allies about their true capabilities, simply to cover up the fact that they instigated their ordeal. Soon after the combined alien alliance began their military operations, they realized that this was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Stories from theaters and campaigns spread vigorously from the now burning skies of Foray to the two moons smashing against Darsa to absurd legends of the red bird that devoured fleets. Regardless, news of the event signified that the humans were bringing in absolute mutual destruction. They instilled fear unlike any greenhorn or veteran had ever experienced before, reinforcing the plunge of morale. We never knew how many humans there actually were, and even though our sources had bits and pieces of their language, everyone mutually understood that humanity comprehended there were too many Xenos. Thus, they had no qualms about accidental friendly fire. An ultimatum was enacted by the Galactic Coalition of Celestial Bodies for the humans, with the acknowledgement that the Dagoonite are entirely at fault for what has transpired. They would be held accountable for their foolishness and pride. The issue remained in what to do about the humans. Due to the widespread propaganda and news of humanity's singular mindset of pure ripping and tearing of an entire alliance of alien militaries, They were remarkably feared, held in disdain, dehumanized in the face of an entire endless entropy. Even though it was announced that the Gavrakai were the ones responsible for the endless war, news fell on fearful ears and roaring cries for blood. The ultimatum for humans to appease the masses, absolute genocide of what remained of their species. An unauthorized purging was commenced, an act that hadn't been approved for centuries. In spite of all the advancements done since then, humanity was much more persistent than the last purged subject. An endless campaign of warfare that began with an onslaught that destroyed a planet resulted in a grueling 30 years. 30 years where humanity played a game of attrition and the greatest display of guerrilla warfare to bleed us dry. Up until we stopped getting reports of casualties on our side. That was generally the Coalition's only reliable source of information to determine if humanity disappeared from the stars. We recovered reports of the remaining humans' last stand at Drun, which climaxed with them employing a neutron bomb on their own position. It ensured a Pyrrhic victory, for the brave men and women that battle either died now or later, succumbing to the slow agony of neutron radiation poisoning, or they simply got wiped out from existence. In the aftermath of the well-fought campaigns, the society we held high was met with difficulties recovering from the human conflicts. The land we purchased with blood, the seas that were tainted with all manner of toxins, the moons that became orbital bombardments, and the unholy war crimes committed on all fronts by all species, even against each other. The trial for the Garavakai went under the radar and quietly bypassed the emotional storm of a bloody victory. To refer to humans as Deathworlders, as monsters, is simplifying and dishonoring their impact on our history, and ignoring our past. It ignores the truths and methods of their madness. It perpetuates and dehumanizes what made humanity fascinating as a species. As with everything, conspiracies arose in time, in future observations of our greatest foe. How, it was theorized, other aliens have helped out the humans to ensure they did the maximum damage extent possible. How, it should have been impossible for a single fledgling species to trouble some of the greatest military powers our civilization has ever developed. How, the humans had the collective willpower to seemingly bend the impossible feats seen in the old tales of mythos into reality. In regards to all the conspiracy, even if some of it were true, is that same sort of mindset that destroyed entire armies. They refuse to respect the enemy, thus they are driven by their own bias. It also does not alleviate the sin of how poorly the debacle was handled by all parties. The universe is cruel and thoughtless. It ignores all of our plights as mortals, and it gives just as it takes. From what I know now about the human spirit, it's that, like the universal concept of life itself, they find a way. They always do. When the universe believed themselves to be at peace, a poem was sung on a singular circuit. I heard a song at daybreak, so honey-sweet and clear. The essence of all joyous things seemed mingling in its cheer. And one of the universal channels of communication, the words barged in and had priority over all else. A crackling voice, disoriented and calm, a lost echo in the night beyond. The frosty world about me I searched with eager gaze, but all was slumber-bound and wrapped in a violet-tinted haze. Those who recognized the language, even a little, collectively panicked and went on full battle stations. Both military and civilian communication networks scrambled to figure out where the signal came from. For those who knew, it was the most terrifying poem they hoped to never hear again. Then suddenly a sunbeam shot slanting over the hill, and once again from out the sky I heard that honeyed trill. The first human vessel to attack the heart of the Garurakai, the first red bird. They named themselves so. The first humans to throw themselves at the remnants of the defending militaries. The vessels that never fell. The ship that endured like the humans. Except the vessel was never confirmed to have been felled, only lost. And there upon the poplar, poised at its topmost height, I saw a little singer clad in scarlet plumage bright. An unusual song that was played prior to the first attack. Even when translated, no one particularly knew its meaning. They could try all they want, but only the humans knew why they played it. Even then, those that survived suddenly relapsed into trauma. Reportedly, they kept shuddering and screeching about the red bird and ghost ship. The poplar branches quivered, by dawn wind slightly blown, and like a breeze-swept poppy flower, the red bird rocked and shone. Only after a group effort of figuring out the signal did the galactic mind open in horror. The signal didn't come from the ruins of Earth, the deepest abyss of space, nor even the final resting place of humanity. The answer was simply everywhere. The blue sky and his feathers flashed over the golden light. Oh, all my heart with rapture thrilled. It was so sweet a sight. The mere fact the signal came to light from outside anyone's control and affected us as much as it did demonstrated one thing. Humanity became the thing that kept us up at night, the evil that haunts every dark corner of our minds. Their memory will never rest, and neither will us. Author, historical archivist Goebel Oskar of the Commander Siverstal Central Galactic Library, Cultural Integrity and Restoration Branch. End of story. Story number 2, The Fragility of Humans is Dangerous, written by Dagoonite. Do not listen to that one. You have to be careful with humans. Yes, they are extremely resilient. They will do things that you think that their bodies cannot. They will seemingly bounce back from things that would kill most races. And they will pursue a person or goal to the point of madness if they find it important. They will weather situations that would make a Trask give up. However, I've seen a human struggle for blow to the head, continue to perform their job with only their customary complaining, then die in their sleep. Did it save lives? Yes. But the human did not even seem aware that they were actually injured, let alone severely. Humans are frighteningly fragile like that, despite their hardiness. No, do not look at me like that. I am serious. The human body has evolved to have thresholds. Some thresholds will leave them incapacitated, but others, they may be actively dying, but their bodies are evolved to push all that to the side to make them function. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. Until they developed tools, they were far from apex predators. Their bodies evolved the dangerous survival trait of ignoring wounds so that they could get to safety. That, however, is not their true fragility. That comes from their minds. Many of the traits that we admire can be just as much of a bane to them as a boon. They may focus to the point that they become completely unaware of their physical condition. Conversely, they may become so hyper-aware of everything around them for sustained periods that their own bodies cannot support the strain of such awareness for extended periods. Yet they cannot, as they put it, shut off. They will push themselves to the point of collapse and still try to do what they must. They will put themselves in situations that they psychologically cannot handle. Or, worst of all, well, let me give you an example. There was a human that I served with. Her name was, I should not say out of respect for her family, but she liked it when we called her Azure. It had something to do with her hair, but I did not understand. She was a technician on my crew, a good technician, not the best, but valuable, reliable, trustworthy, capable. It was not just her reliability that endeared her to us. She made it a point to learn at least a little of every member's culture. She knew all of the truly important dates for everyone on her team. She knew how to speak to any one of us. She knew how to make our stress more manageable. While she may not have been able to do everything that the others could, she could enhance all of us just a little bit. She called it force multiplication, making the whole greater than the sum of its parts, a rare thing, even amongst humans. The after report said that the DNL coupling on the slip reactor failed. We did not know what happened at first. Who has ever heard of a DNL coupling failing while the slip reactor was active? I never had. But then again, I would imagine that the majority of the vessel that suffered it are never heard from again. In the time that it took to seal the reactor room, 8 crew members died. When we had a guess as to what had happened, a wrong guess, I might add, we found that the drones were inoperable. Something for smarter people than myself. Someone would have to go into the reactor room to initiate repairs. Our crew chief began to prepare a random way to see who would do it, when she said the 2 most fragile words in her native tongue. The phrase is crass and not able to be repeated in polite company. You must understand, for humans, there are 2 words that, when together, indicate a complete failure. It means that logic must now go by the wayside, that there is no good answer, but action must be taken. They are the 2 words of ultimate defeat. For any other people, those 2 words would mean that all is lost. For humans, it means casting aside logic and reason and taking whatever course they view as the only one in front of them. Azure insisted that she had this, that she was good, that she could handle this. It was her expression that I remember the most. She was not showing her teeth in the ways humans mean is pleasant. She did not look focused. She did not look concerned. She looked blissful. Her family said. We gave her what protections we could, despite her complaints that they were unnecessary. We asked her for words, and she said that we would have them. She gave them to us. She uttered one of her musical poems the entire time. One about returning home to a place called Mingale. Our doctors figured up the amount of time that she could be in there. Would you believe that she finished the repairs in time? She did. And she stood there staring at the still active reactor, repeatedly reciting her poem. Saline falling from her eye sockets, or so I'm told. We could only listen. The reactor room too dangerous to pull her out. She would have survived if we had, even if we would have died in the process. The Nell was the first to repeat parts of a song with her. They would not let us turn off the audio. The last words of soul carries weight with them. I do not understand the bulk of the poem, and at first I thought it was directed to us. Let her go was often repeated phrase in it. She repeated the poem many times rather than leave to safety. Eventually, we all repeated it in her stead. She was long silent by the time that we could safely enter. Her skin was blackened by that point, and we had to take care that the corpse would not contaminate anyone on the trip back. And yes, we all were there when her remains returned to her kin. One does not save your life and you not be present when their remains are returned, if you can help it. It was a kin that explained how fragile she was, how her brain did not let her see the good of existence without chemical assistance, how despite an average life, she knew misery like an old familiar acquaintance, and fought to keep others from experiencing it, and of how her last moments were happy that she was being liberated. Ask others and you'll find many tales, how a human will see death ahead of them and commit themselves to it. But in many of those tales, you'll find them performing the impossible, the last stand of the 8th Drop Battalion, the survival of the Zuak, the evacuation of Dunok, all of them impossible feats, all of them by humans who gave in to the fragility of probable death and decided. Humans are fragile in ways that make them dangerous, sometimes to themselves, sometimes to others. A human who utters those 2 words is doomed to failure or the impossible. You will know what it means when you hear it, but for that reason, you must be careful with them. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.